Our guest joined Sweet Adelines in 1987, and she sang with the Burnaby Chorus in Region 26 for 4 years. She was in a total of 5 quartets, including Brava, who became the Sweet Adelines International Quartet Champions in 2003. She's a certified judge in the sound category. She's the new director's coordinator for Region 26 and the chair of the Song Assessment Tools Subcommittee of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. And she is celebrating her 30th anniversary as the director of the award-winning and wildly entertaining Lionsgate Chorus. Hi, Sandy. Welcome to ZoomChats 2021. How are you today?
I'm great, Renee. How are you?
I'm doing fine. We got a ton of snow here outside of the Chicago area. So I was outside shoveling, but I'm really happy to be back in here in the Zoom room chatting with you today.
It's wonderful to be here with you particularly.
Yeah, so we're listening to that whole resume in your intro. I would love it if you could tell all of us how you got involved in barbershop.
Well, first of all, I had never even heard of barbershop when I was doing all my musical training. I've got the highest designation of Royal Conservatory piano training. And when I joined the choir to sing in grade 8, they found out I played the piano. So I became the accompanist for 5 years and didn't sing a note. Went to university and pursued a music education degree. And that's when I discovered that I like singing more than I liked playing the piano. But I ended up getting a psychology degree as well as a music ed degree. And I think I might use the psych degree more in Sweet Adelines than the music degree.
Especially as a director.
I left Victoria, moved to Vancouver, had no friends, had no job, saw an ad in the paper about a chorus that had just returned from Hawaii. And I thought, I could go to Hawaii. That was in '87. And I walked into my first rehearsal at the end of November in 1987, and that was it.
I had that same feeling on my first night. That was it. I was home.
Yep.
So you're training at the university level. What kind of music did you study?
Mostly classical and jazz. And I did some a cappella, but it was mostly classical and jazz. And I, like I said, I never had even heard of barbershop before this ad in the paper that I saw in '87. So.
Were you always a high singer, or is that something you developed?
Yeah, I was a soprano in the classical choir. We sang for the Queen in 1983. But yeah, I was always a soprano. I know I don't sound like it when I speak, but that's my range. And when I came in that very first night, when I walked into Burnaby Chorus, Joey Minchell, the then director, she had closed the tenor section. And she said to her voice placement team, the tenor section's closed unless you hear someone who's truly a tenor and can't be anything else. And apparently that was me, even though I had no idea what that meant.
Can you share with us something that you love as a singer when you're on stage in front of an audience?
I love not worrying on stage. I think that's my favorite thing. And everybody says, I'm now jumping forward to when Bravo won, but everyone says that the difference between the Friday afternoon finals and the first performance on Saturday is monumentally different. Right. Because the pressure's all gone. And I think that's always my most favorite time on stage is when there's no pressure, and that even does happen in competition. But I love being able to just completely get lost in the performance and have fun and see the audience having fun and really enjoying it. And that's probably my most favorite thing to do on stage.
And I know from watching you rehearse with your chorus and quartets, you're very technical and you love, love, love repetition. And you will go after a skill until you absolutely get it. So you're very technical when you're building a performance. So you love when you can finally just let it go and enjoy the experience, right?
I do. And I think that's when everything just sort of falls into place, is that moment. Although I will always say that the technique has to be there first. Although I love being able to incorporate more of the heart and emotion into the technique as it's being built, because I think that makes it easier to make that transition down the road.
Did you always plan to become a director, or that was someone else's idea for you, or because this year Sandy is celebrating her 30th year as the director of the Lionsgate Chorus. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Was that a vision that you had for yourself to become a director?
No, not even remotely. And when I first joined, Joey saw that I had training and potential, I guess. And so she quickly moved me up through the ranks under her guidance and mentorship. But then when she left the chorus, she was the director up until 91, the spring of 91. I had just finished the DCP, which was pretty brand new at the time. Cami McKinley, who I had never met, didn't know who she was. She was the president of Lionsgate Chorus, which was sort of the rival chorus across town. She saw in our regional newsletter that I had just finished the DCP. Lionsgate had been looking for a director for a couple of years. So just on a whim, she phoned me and she said, this is before email, she phoned me and said, hey, are you interested? And I was 27 or 28 at the time. And I thought, what the hell? What the hell? So I went, and oh my goodness, it was a totally different chorus back then. I walked in and I was the youngest person by probably 10 or 11 years. And in fact, I think Cami was the next youngest person in the room. And I gave it a 3-month trial, and that was it. I've been the director ever since.
So that has to be pretty amazing. So, I mean, a 30-year journey of standing in front of singers every week and being the technician that you are and the skilled singer and the skilled teacher that you are, that's an incredible journey from wherever they were during that year to what you've been able to accomplish with them. When you're putting a song together with your chorus, what are some of the methods that you use to get really familiar with the characterization of a song?
At the development stage of a song, we try to incorporate vocal expression into the interpretive plan. And the interpretive plan includes things like dynamics and tempo and all of the technical stuff, but we really try to incorporate what it would mean to authentically speak a phrase to somebody. So if we're taking any song, I mean, this could literally be anything. It could be, perhaps I had a wicked childhood, which is the opening line of our current contest ballad. You would take any phrase in the song and have a, authentic over coffee conversation with somebody. And what words would you emphasize? What consonants would you inflect and that kind of thing? And, how would you most authentically communicate the emotion of a particular phrase? Would you say it loudly for the world to hear? Would you say it really intimately? And that kind of thing, just, word art, really.
So you do that as a group, or you do that with music leaders, or how do you put together that plan?
We do that. I do that mostly myself first, and then I use the music team, my senior music team, my executive music team, section leaders, assistant directors, and we work on it together. One thing that we've just started doing in the COVID times is our most recent song that we're in the process of learning right now, we actually took everybody in the chorus and put them into a breakout room for 10 or 15 minutes with just the first, I think, 12 or 16 measures of the song. And we had them sort of go through the lyrics and talk about the emotion, how they felt, and how they felt hearing the lyrics, how they would feel if they actually spoke the lyrics, the overall message of the song, and then phrase by phrase, the overall message. And it really helped. And then what each breakout room did is they sent me all of their discoveries.
That's a great method for
we just started doing it, actually, and it's working. And we're taking the song in sort of bite-sized chunks and we talk about the overall emotion of the song, but also bit by bit by bit. And it's helping to design the interpretive plan of the song.
I keep talking about that there are gifts of COVID, and certainly that is one. We have all embraced this technology, and being able to send them out into random groups where they can talk through a song is really different than having them even in a live rehearsal, or that would take everybody moving around the room. It's cool. It really would help them feel connected to the song. So what do you tell singers when they say to you, but it's not my story? I don't know how to connect to that story.
Well, I think everybody has a story. They're just not willing to admit it. It may not be the literal story of the song, but there's always something behind the lyrics that people can relate to. But for the people who really truly cannot deliver the message, then we just tell them to act, become someone else, you know, be an actor in a movie, or live someone else's story, or tell someone else's story, because sometimes it's actually easier for us to tell someone else's story than our own, because it's less hot.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
have to feel like as exposed on stage
exactly.
if I'm telling
Some of
something.
our some of our best performances have been when we are not necessarily connecting with the lyrics literally, but when we're using the overall song to support someone else or prop someone else up who's having a difficult time. And that have been some of our most authentic and emotional performances.
So the contest ballad you mentioned, I must have done something good. On a first read, somebody could say, well, I've never experienced that kind of love. But if they choose to allow themselves to really experience that story from beginning to end, of course, there's a way to have it come from the heart. It just doesn't necessarily have to be how you have felt in relationships, because the audience, there's people in your audience that have or wish they had experienced that kind of love. And that makes a musical moment, right?
Exactly. And that song in particular, I mean, Clay and I had a conversation before he did the arrangement, because the bridge is original. Clay wrote that bridge, but it was based on a conversation we had about the development of my relationship with Tim, my husband. And so that story, the story of that song, is very personal for me. It literally is our story. But there are a lot of people, as you say, Renee, that don't have that in their lives. So we have a lot of members who sing that to their children, sing that to their parents, their pets, because for a lot of us, our pets are who are keeping us company through COVID.
Yes.
Or people are singing it about their Sweet Adeline experience, their chorus experience, and it doesn't have to be literally what the lyrics are, but we all have someone or something that we love, and so we can make any song relatable and authentic.
I agree. And I think we're getting better and better at it. When I first started in barbershop, we had these, 2-page backstories of the characters in the song. And it's hard to make that really become your own.
Yeah.
If you can't put any of yourself into it. And I just always loved, we do have the freedom to be thinking about whatever we want to think about in relating to that story. And I'm thinking now about that. So that ballad, I mean, you started softly,
Mm-hmm.
and that choice was so compelling when you sang that first line, the first time that we saw you compete with that. It was not that big, here's our big song coming.
Which I have to admit was hard for me. That was a departure. Oh, I thought, in fact, I think I even wrote an intro, a big, splashy, big chords, loud. And then the whole chorus went, are you crazy? That's not what this song is about. I literally have an intro somewhere on my hard drive that I wrote.
That is great. Well, well, it worked. So you went with the thing that worked, because I think you had some members come and sit down. So there was staging to start it.
Yes.
Right. So there was a visual change right there. And then you started so softly that the conversation was immediately established with the audience, because we had that sensation of, what are they singing? So, I mean, it was beautiful. And whether each of your singers felt that that was the story that they wanted to share about their life, it didn't matter, because as an ensemble, it was very authentic.
Thank you. The challenge with a song like that is how to keep it fresh. But it's a story that keeps reviving itself, because our lives keep changing. And I think that as long as we can keep the message behind it fresh, the song itself stays fresh.
Well, you use speech level singing. I mean, as a technique, I've heard you teach about that. Help us understand how we can use that right now in Zoom rooms. And then also when we get back to working on songs, either ones we've known a long time or new ones that we're learning. So what does the speech level singing technique help singers accomplish?
Well, in addition to all of the benefits to vocal production, which is a whole other area of conversation, but to do with keeping the instrument shape stable and that kind of thing, it also helps us to understand, which consonants are important. How do we use internal dynamics to communicate a particular message, that kind of thing, And we'll take it phrase by phrase, and we'll sometimes play with the overall emotion. So if we take, perhaps I had a wicked childhood, are we saying that about our literal childhood? Were we actually wicked? Did we do mean things to other kids?
Right.
Or was it, we maybe have been a little naughty at university or that kind of thing? What kind of wicked are we talking about? Or is it simply that, it could literally be anything? And if we change the context of a phrase and then have people speak it the way they would in that context, we're going to find that we have different inflections, different colors and textures in the voice.
Right.
And so we just find the one that makes the most sense with the music. Of course, we have to always marry that with the music, what the composer intention was with
right.
Chords and melody lines, that kind of thing. So if we take the last two lines of Clay's song, so the song is about how music brings us all together, and the implication is that it's the only thing that most of us have in common is that we love to sing. But the last two lines are, it's the music that brings us together, but it's the friendships that make us stay. And it's a line that we have thrown around in Sweet Adelines for as long as I've been a member. I've heard that comment, and it's literally true. For those of you who are new to the organization, stick around because the friendships will make you stay. But if you really think about that, it's the music that brings us together, but it's the friendships that make us stay. The whole, I just gave myself so good about
I got them too when it changed the way I felt about that makes us stay.
Yeah.
When you said friendship that way, then I had a different reaction to that makes us stay.
Well, I mean, take you and I, for example, Renee. We would never have met, but we've connected in a really genuine way because of this organization. And I cherish that. And I cherish all of the great friendships that I've made over the years. I don't want to cry, but
you're going to get me going.
And then that's the kind of thing. So if you really think about how you would say that in an authentic setting, but it's the friendships. So break it down. There's more emphasis on the F of friendships. Right. So if you take that word, there's a lot of non-voiced consonants, but that's what makes the word truly emotional. It's not the let's sing vowel to vowel and let's make sure that we're tall and it's the genuineness of the lyric.
And a lot of emotion is really in the consonants.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So you go through and you speak each line that way, and that's how you figure out an interpretive plan, or you help your singers understand why a certain word has to be accentuated. It comes off of the fact that speech is natural.
Exactly. And now we're talking about animated, energized kind of speech. It's not just, coffee talk or a phone conversation. It's a little bit more animated than that, more theatrical, but not inauthentic, not campy theatrical. Huh. But I will be honest and tell you that up until recently, I have been doing this work behind the scenes and then basically not force feeding, that's a terrible term, but
presenting,
offering my interpretation to the chorus. Because truthfully, there hasn't been time to do all of the other kind of work. Right now, we have all the time in the world. So Elaine Cotton has been a huge help to me. She's my second in command assistant director and my queen baritone. She's my right brain. Well, I'm the left brain and she's my right brain. And she's very good at this kind of work. And we've been discovering, and she's been gently nudging me in this direction for a while, that we will have a lot more buy-in from our singers if they come up with the plan themselves. Oh, duh. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. But we have time to do that now. So why not? Yeah.
I think that the Zoom room view is so interesting for that, because the whole chorus can see each other, which is just not the way it is on the risers.
Exactly.
And we're finding out a lot about each other, watching how we react to something that's happening in the Zoom room. Our directors have been looking at us like that forever, but we haven't been able to see the people that we sing with. So it's great. Something will happen and it will make people emotional, and you get to see it.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to change the way we sing when we're actually in the same room.
I think so too. I think we're going to spend more time looking at each other on the risers because
It'll, it'll be weird to look at the back of each other's heads.
we just stare at the director all night. Really, the only difference between the way when we're speaking with emotion and energy, the only difference between that and when we sing is that when we sing, we hold vowels longer. And we don't do that when we speak because it's weird. And yet, when we sing, right? When we sing, we distort our word sounds because we're told to sing with tall vowels or resonance or, fill in the technical blank. But that visually is inauthentic.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying to somebody, but it's the friendships that make us stay. I mean, no one's going to stay for that. And yet the leads are told hold the word stay for 10 minutes while everybody else does all this fancy embellishment stuff in the tag. So they
how do we fix that though? How do we fix it and
keep literally, if you say it's the friendships that make us stay, then that's the look of the word.
Right.
And so it keeps refreshing if you're a singer who holds a word for a long time, but you can't keep distorting the way that vowel looks or sounds because A, you're going to create intonation problems, and B, it looks ridiculous and you're going to turn off your audience.
Yeah.
So anyway, I find that I could go on and on. There's a lot of benefits to the speech level singing approach in both the right and left brain. The left brain, it really sort of neutralizes all of the junk that can happen in the sound. It eliminates a lot of the intonation problems that are created by the singer's distortion of the vocal tract. But it also creates, on the right brain side of things, it really creates the opportunity for authentic delivery of lyrics. And visually, it matches.
It makes it all go together.
Yeah.
That's great. Can you, because I've also heard you teach about this, so can you just share a couple of tips with us so that we can all start breathing the way that our bodies are designed instead of using 52 techniques in order to get breath, because that steals breath. So what are the ways that we can just relax, especially sitting at home in front of our computer screens, and allow our bodies to do what they're designed to do?
Well, what you just said is literally the key, is that we all know how to breathe. We've been doing it from the minute we come out. And yet we've created this ridiculous, we've made it so difficult. And as a result, we overbreathe, we underbreathe, we do all these really weird tension-filled things to get a proper singer's breath, when in fact it's way easier than that.
Because I find in warm-ups that I get lightheaded because I'm thinking so much about the way I'm breathing, and I don't get lightheaded during the day. Yeah. So then I get into a cycle and then I'm paying attention to my breathing even more. And I start breathing in my shoulders. I've talked about that before. So and then I can't make it to the ends of phrases.
And you burn out your voice as a result.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't. So how do we fight against that? Because we do need to talk about breathing. You're not suggesting that we don't.
Oh gosh, no.
But how do we peel away all of that stuff and get down to letting the body do what it's supposed to do?
Right. I mean, truly it's, and I don't mean to sound like I'm fixated on this one approach to producing sound, but the speech level singing approach does actually address breathing as well, because we don't overbreathe when we speak, and yet we overbreathe when we sing.
That's right, we don't.
So, I know, and yet we don't run out of air when we speak.
No.
And we don't burn out our voices when we speak, and yet we do it when we sing all the time, because we tend to overbreathe. And as a result, because our bodies can only handle so much air pressure from below our vocal folds, so what ends up happening is that we sing with press or too much pressure on the vocal folds, and so we end up out of tune as a result. And we fry our voices, and within an hour we can't sing anymore, or we sound hoarse, or we've taken the clarity out of our sound because our vocal folds are going, get off me.
Right. We just need a lot more ease. Is that what I'm hearing?
Ease, and understand that your body knows how much air to take in and how much air to use. And if you want to do a crescendo, use more air. If you want, you know what I mean? Like, we all know how to do it. We all know how to speak loudly. We use more air. We all know how to speak quietly. quietly, we use less air.
We don't have to think about it. So
to
singing
think
should
about
be
it.
the same.
Yeah. I try to avoid the language, take a breath here. I'll say, this is the place where you get air, or let yourself have a breath here, or
Oh,
that kind of thing.
yeah.
As soon as we use words like take,
Take.
it implies action, and that they, our smart singers translate that to tension. And the breath plan is really part of the emotional plan. It's not a survival plan. It's how we again, going back to when we're speaking to somebody, we breathe as part of our phraseology, and so we should be doing that as singers. I used to, like most directors, would plan inhumanly long phrases that no person could get through.
Right.
And it just created so much stress in the singer. And they would, try to conserve air. And so they would undersing, or they would breathe all over the place. And we'd have all these internal synchronization problems. And so several years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I started, well, you know what? Why don't I create a breath plan that I can actually produce? I can sing.
Right.
Concept.
And if you can make it through, plus that's a great thing for your singers to hear.
Exactly.
I went through this and I picked places where I made a phrase plan that I could accomplish.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, these are great tips. So are there resources out there about speech level singing, or ways that people can learn about that type of concept?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff online. I mean, a lot of the stuff I've learned just from doing some research online, and Steve Scott is a great resource. He's done some workshops with us on the subject, and it's a lot of it is just self-discovery, discovering what works for me as a singer and my team, and then we put it out to the chorus. And if it works for us, it can work because we're singers too, the directors are singers too. So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that with us, Sandy. I mean, we all are trying to find ways to increase our skill while we're separated, and all of those things can help the individual singer and then eventually the ensemble. So I really appreciate you sharing that with all of us today.
My pleasure.
Very much looking forward to seeing you in person.
Me too.
And I hope that you and Tim and your family stay well.
Same to you, Renee. And I miss you all. I can't wait to hug every single one of you at the next convention.
Everybody hug.
Group hug.
Group hug. All right, take care. Thanks, Sandy.
Renee.